It's Tim Cheese of TechSpot here, and this is the Alienware 15R3, the new and refreshed version of Alienware's mid-size gaming laptop with NVIDIA GeForce 10 series graphics inside for the first time. It is a large laptop and it's decently powerful, however there is a lot of competition in the 15.6-inch laptop market, particularly from ASUS and MSI. With that said, there's a lot to like about the Alienware 15, and we'll start with the design here. Alienware has been using a design quite similar to this across their gaming laptop line for a couple of years now, and it still looks quite good on the Alienware 15R3. Around the keyboard, you'll find that soft touch black plastic that looks quite understated and doesn't have a lot of the annoying gamer style that we typically see on gaming laptops of this size. The lid, it's aluminium and it looks decent enough. Alienware's gone with their typical Y-shaped pattern here with the alien head logo. It looks okay, but really around the keyboard and display area is where this laptop stands out from a design perspective. Of course, it wouldn't be an Alienware design without a ton of LED lighting. There are 12 separate RGB LED zones on this laptop, including some light bars along the edges, which is something I haven't seen before. There's 4 separate lighting zones in the keyboard. The trackpad lights up. There's a lot of customization options here that allow you to make something truly horrendous in terms of your color matching, or you can go with something orange and blue, which is what I went to look like the TechSpot colors. And of course you can turn off all the lighting if that's not something for you. Gives the laptop a much more stealthy look. The body of this laptop has a number of ports in a layout that makes the most sense for using it on a desk. Along the back you'll find things like the proprietary power port, Ethernet, HDMI 2.0, a USB-C port with Thunderbolt 3 output, and of course the proprietary graphics amplifier port. All of those things you can dock straight into the back and you're not disrupted on the sides of the laptop during its use. Of course, along those sides you will find USB 3.0 Type A on both the left and right sides. There's also an additional USB-C port without Thunderbolt 3 on the left hand side, and 2 3.5mm headphone jacks for using your headphone and microphone. These ports are complemented by a number of intake and exhaust vents along the sides and the rear. There's also quite a significant intake vent on the bottom that provides a lot of airflow to the beefy cooling solution inside this laptop. And this is partly the reason why this laptop weighs 3.49 kilograms, which is quite heavy for a laptop of this size and more than 1 kilogram heavier than some of its competitors. So it's definitely not a laptop that you'll be wanting to cart around with you. I do think they could probably fit a larger than 15.6-inch display in this laptop thanks to those significant bezels, but one of those things those large bezels do provide is Windows Hello support. So you can simply open up the lid of your laptop, it'll recognize your face and log you in immediately. And there's also Tobii eye tracking support provided by that Windows Hello sensor, which is a little bit gimmicky in most games, but it's a nice and handy addition to this laptop that you won't find in many other competitors. The keyboard on the Alienware 15 is typical of most gaming laptops. It features large keys and a decent layout, including full-sized arrow keys, which is great to see. There's a number of macro keys, 5 in total, on the left-hand side that you can program to whatever you like, and this is particularly useful for MMO gamers. And also quite enjoyed the travel distance of this keyboard, although each key does feel a bit mushy. Not that you'll notice particularly in gaming, but it doesn't give you that nice clicky feel that a desktop mechanical keyboard would. Of course, not that I expect that you'll be able to achieve that in a gaming laptop anyway. There's not a whole lot of point talking about the trackpad on a gaming laptop because I figure most people will be using an external mouse with the Alienware 15, but the one they have included is a bit small, but it tracks your gestures and finger movements quite well, and those 2 large clicky buttons add a bit of tactile feedback to the whole experience. There are a huge number of hardware configuration options available for the Alienware 15, including both GTX 1060 and GTX 1070 models. The unit I've received to review today has a GTX 1060 6GB inside, as well as an Intel Core i7 6700HQ, 16GB of DDR4 memory, a 256GB boot SSD plus a 1TB hard drive, and a 1080p 120Hz G-Sync display. This setup in total will cost you $1,550, and that puts it in a fairly similar price range to a number of its competitors. This laptop provides quite a good gaming experience at 1080p. The GTX 1060 is well equipped for gaming at this resolution and can often hit 60 FPS in most of today's titles with all the quality settings cranked up to maximum. There are a few exceptions to this rule. I think the most demanding titles like Deus Ex Mankind Divided, you might need to turn the graphics settings down to say a very high or a high level. However, for the vast majority of titles, including popular games like Battlefield 1, you'll be running that at above 60 FPS with everything cranked up. So there's a lot of power to be found inside the GTX 1060, and of course you can upgrade to the GTX 1070. That gives you 40 to 50% better performance for a cost of around $400, and it's more suited to the 4K display option if that's how you go. While the performance of this laptop is good in a general sense, it was beaten by a very similar MSI laptop with a GTX 1060 inside by around 3 to 5 FPS in most games. I'm not 100% sure what the cause of this performance discrepancy is, but I believe the cooling solution has something to do with it. The cooling solution on the Alienware 15 is large, however it's not particularly effective. The GPU regularly sat above 90 degrees Celsius during lengthy gaming sessions, which is quite hot for a gaming laptop. It did keep the surface temperatures down, so you won't find it uncomfortable to use the keyboard during those lengthy gaming sessions. However, the cooler is incredibly loud. It's one of the loudest gaming laptops I've reviewed recently, and that fan noise, you will need to wear headphones to block it out because it's quite annoying and it sounds like a jet engine when it's fully spinning up. In fact, I'm not quite sure why the fans need to run so fast. Maybe it's because the cooler isn't that good, but you'd think that considering competitors like MSI have engineered solutions that are more effective and quieter, that Alienware could have done something with the large amount of space that they've taken up with this cooler. It's also worth talking a little bit about the display in my review unit, which is fantastic from a performance perspective. The 120Hz refresh rate offers that little bit extra smoothness for frame rates above 60Hz, and you will definitely be able to achieve that with the GTX 1060 in some games. And of course, the inclusion of G-Sync means you're getting a tear-free experience, and also it's completely free of any stuttering down to about 40 frames per second. So when your games are a little bit more intensive and you want to run at higher quality settings, you'll be able to get a smooth experience down to about 40 frames per second thanks to G-Sync. The higher end option, which is the 4K display option, unfortunately doesn't come with G-Sync, which is a bit disappointing, so I'll have to leave that for the GTX 1070 model owners. I don't think it's a good option if you're just getting the GTX 1060. And of course the entry-level display option, which is 1080p without G-Sync, well, it's pretty basic. That said, both the entry-level and the 4K option are IPS panels, so you'll get a much better color experience. This TN panel has really rubbish color performance and the viewing angles are very poor, so don't expect anything fantastic from a color performance perspective, but you will certainly get what you're after from a gaming performance perspective. All up, the Alienware 15 is a good choice if you're after a 15-inch gaming laptop. The design is one of the standout features, and Alienware offers a number of additional features that you won't find in its competitors, such as that Windows Hello support with eye tracking and the multiple customizable lighting zones. There's so many of them, and the ability to customize this laptop as you see fit is one of its benefits. This laptop also comes with a decent range of hardware, and while it's not the fastest GTX 1060 laptop I reviewed, it does still provide a decent gaming experience at 1080p, and of course there is a huge range of configuration options available on Dell's website, so I'm sure you'll be able to find the best performance available at your given budget with the Alienware 15. Of course, don't forget it's also user upgradable. You can change out the storage and also the RAM quite easily in this laptop, and that might affect your purchasing decision. The Alienware 15 competes quite well from a price perspective with its competitors of the same size. I think the mid-spec GTX 1060 models offer the best value and they're priced most appropriately in the market. I wouldn't opt for the entry-level $1,250 model because I think it lacks some key features, such as there's only 8GB of RAM instead of 16GB and there's no boot SSD. Also, the processor is a little bit slower, so paying for those additional upgrades to around the $1,500 to $1,600 mark is really where the Alienware 15 provides the best value. The GTX 1070 models aren't as value friendly. Often competitors from Asus and Gigabyte can be cheaper for the GTX 1070, but if you're looking at going all out and spending around $2,200, the value does actually return there as well, and you'll find that you get a much faster processor, the i7-6820HK, essentially for free compared to its competitors at those high-end price points. The two main reasons to opt for something from a competitor instead could be the loud cooling solution that isn't particularly effective, and also the weight of this laptop, which makes it less portable than some of the other options available. But generally, I still think the Alienware 15 is a quite decent option if you're after a 15-inch gaming laptop. That's it for this review of the Alienware 15. Don't forget to check back on TechSpot.com where we've got full benchmarks for this laptop comparing to some of the other devices on the market today. Also, subscribe to this YouTube channel. There's more video reviews coming in the future. I've actually got some MSI gaming laptops with me, 2 of them, which will be coming up very shortly. Thanks guys, this has been a TechSpot video review.